Hola. So, I have been processing information and energy and witnessing of people and how they respond, whether it be in alignment with self or with ego. And what I've noticed is how many people, I included, we respond out of a fear-based place. We feel a resonance of energy back at us in any situation, whether other humans are actually participating in it or just life situations in general. So our bodies, our systems are sound waves, and we have the ability to absorb, transmit, or even reverb the sound waves back out. So if we don't live in a state of integrity, or if we do not create pillars or a baseline of energy to which we identify with, then there's no reverb. Then if there is a reverb, then it's usually what we refer to as triggers. So energy is directed towards you. You are emotionally triggered by the energy that was sent in your way, and we respond based off of the trigger, unless, of course, we have enough consciousness to acknowledge that we've been triggered and we choose a different response other than that of which the trigger is creating within us. So how can we work with this? There are so many different ways. There are meditations, and there are energy healings and clearings, and however, most people don't actually know how to do quote unquote the work. We've heard of that phrase before, like, when you're on this spiritual journey, are you doing the work? And how does that look and how does that show up? It's about being accountable for how we feel and how we make others feel at any given time. Now, there's fine lines in all of that. We are not 100% accountable for how every human being feels, whether we're in their presence or not. Absolutely not. But it's learning when we are accountable for those situations. And what I'm witnessing is, in our generations, we're going through the extreme pulls where we at one point in time felt that we were completely accountable for all dynamics and energies, and we would live in places of shame and self-abuse. And then you have people who are finding no accountability whatsoever for the energy that they create in any given situation. They are in the entitlement place. It's as if they don't need to own the accountabilities of how they show up, because they're entitled to be whoever the F they want to be, right? So neither one of those extremes is in alignment. It is the in-between. And so, in fact, both of those extremes are just the lower ego, which is over responsibility for everybody else's stuff. Basically, you're identifying that you're less than other human beings because your personal emotions and how you authentically feel in any given moment isn't authenticated. It doesn't have value. And so then you go into the other extreme where you think that you're all that and you are the epitome of value, and that there's nothing you can do and nothing you should be accountable for be based off of how you showed up in any situation. So it's learning when you tap into either sides of those energies, and I refer to those as gutter balls. So it's as if we're going bowling, right? And I'm at a bowling alley, and there is, you have I believe, forgive me, however, I believe it is 10 triangles that go down the center of the alley itself, that beautiful wooden alley. And from the sides of that are these two like gutter ball areas where if the ball slides in, it's a shot in hell that it'll ever pop back out again. So once you do, you've failed, right? It's a place of failure on some level once you hit the gutter ball. But there are chances and opportunities for that gutter ball to pop right out and get right back on alley. But anybody who's gone bowling knows that that's rare. So I like to look at my super and lower ego as vibrations, and I identify them as gutter balls. In that when I'm communicating or when I'm engaging with people, that I do my best to stay in the 10 center triangles of that beautiful alleyed way. And if I feel a vibration within my body that has dipped me in either my lower or super ego, I take accountability for it. Now, what I've also done is I have put up the bumpers. And if you've gone bowling, then you know that you can get those little bumpers that go in those alleyways that they don't allow you to fall into either side of those gutter balls. So what I do is when I'm speaking or engaging or wanting even, it's not even wanting, it's a choosing to be accountable for the vibration that I bring to the table in any given situation. Am I always in that? No, absolutely not. Sometimes I just don't give a shit. However, primarily and more often than not, I like to know that in any given moment I am creating from that, and I wish to be in that level of alignment in order to not harm people, right? In order not to do future karmic harm to myself even, let alone just harming other people. So taking accountability in any given moment. So I set up what I refer to as the gutter balls or the bumpers over the gutter balls, and it is basically I have identified what the vibration feels like for me when I dip into my super or lower ego. How do we do that, right? It's learning when we're being in the codependent or pathetic energy of the lower ego or the narcissistic super ego, and there are steps and stages within super ego and narcissism, but truly they are one and the same. And every last human being at any given moment can be the codependent or the narcissist. However, there are some that have played in those arenas for so long that it's as if they've tattooed it on themselves, and there's a level of permanence to it, and it builds upon. Can we heal from that? Of course we can. However, we have to choose. So all of us interact and play with codependency and super ego. And at any given time, when somebody shows up as the narcissistic super ego, the basic energy in order to engage or in order to feel the magnetic pull at that moment. So somebody shows up as a narcissist, it's almost innately within you to show up as the codependent because you're feeling the magnetic pull. However, when you're standing in a place of sovereignty, when you're standing in a place of source, when you are standing in the place of when you're in center and someone comes at you with narcissism or codependency, you choose to engage and play off that magnetic pull. You do not have to. You are within your own personal bubble and means. You get to embody any energy that you choose at that time. It is a choice to engage with that magnetic pull and become the narcissist or the codependent in any given situation. We do not have to play out the egoic game. There are some people who are masterminds of it. They don't even know they're masterminds of it. And they go in and they trigger you and they hope to create the egoic game and keep you in a loop of toxicity. And then there are others that make you accountable for when you yourself go into that egoic realm, and they help draw you out of it so that you can find balance again. So knowing how to find those two states on your own is truly a key element in how to walk this path in the new earth that we are now on. At any given moment, in any given time, we can dip back into the ego or the fear and lose sight of where we are and make ourselves toxic and make others toxic. So being accountable for our energy and surrounding ourselves by others who own the same levels of accountability, which I often refer to as tribe, then it makes it far more effortless to move forward on this new earthly plane, right? We're coming from a place of love and acceptance and honor of each other without judging that this person maybe slipped up or wanting to take power from that person because you can feel how powerless they feel, so you know you already have the ability to get more power because they're already feeling powerless. Either one of those is fairly disgusting. And I know from having played those places in my life as well, knowing that when I felt powerless or when I felt in power and I abused either side of it, it's truly disgusting to think that any human being believes they have the right to believe that they are greater than their other fellow men and women. And I say that because humans typically take on two genders. I know that that's a topic for another day. However, I also know how sensitive people can be with this gender thing going on, so I wish to honor them. However, biologically there are two, and so I will refer to it as that. So when we're dealing with energies, I refer to it as pillars that you stand on, or truths that you hold dear, things that you know that are unwavering. And I offer this to you, and it's unwavering as of this point of your consciousness, or as I love a fellow colleague of mine said once, and I loved this. He would use this. He's like, my current level of ignorance versus my current level of consciousness, because it's one and the same. Just how conscious we are is just how ignorant we are. So my current level of awareness, my current level of consciousness, my current level of ignorance, I base this vibration in truth. And is it true for me, or is it universal truth? And so sometimes dissecting why we're choosing these things is just as important, because then that gives us a reference point down the line of why at one point in time in our lives we identified that as a truth or as a pillar to which we stood upon, knowing, in our at that time of consciousness. But we should always own our basic agreements. We should always be in a place of what are my basic agreements and stand on those. Be unwavering with kindness. It's one thing to stand upon them and throw your sword up in defense of them, that unnecessary. When you own the truths, you do not require a sword to defend them. You own them. They're within you. It's a vibration that you believe in, and that's your current level of consciousness. That's your current level of ignorance. There's nothing wrong with that. However, be unwavering from it. So, along those lines, I'm going to go into a topic of shape-shifting. And so there are many high vibrational beings that are capable of what we refer to as shape-shifting, embodying other people's energies or embodying a different energy, or literally changing the way they look or appear based off the vibration that they're in. And I say this because I am one of those. I am capable of shape-shifting. However, that's a powerful gift, and if utilized properly, it can help people heal. If utilized improperly, it's a manipulation. And so owning one's truth of who they are and how they identify themselves, and standing upon that pillar, allows for the ability to shapeshift without manipulating. And if you were to not own those personal truths and over-identify with what you shapeshift into, then you're embodying, there's no foundation to it. All you're doing is misleading and manipulating other beings, which happens more often than people know. And not even just to you, it's you often that are doing it. Yes, we are all having things done what appears like to us. However, what happens when it's you that's doing it? Are we being accountable for how we're showing up in each and every situation? And are we doing it based off of love or fear? Just because we assume it's the best outcome for the other person involved in the storyline doesn't mean it is. You're taking away somebody else's free will by forcing them into making a choice that doesn't serve them. Allowing a human being to sit in a vibration and own that vibration and come to peace with it, that's powerful. So owning of one's truth and standing upon that pillar with grace and with compassion, in order to not manipulate the other people, allowing them to have the ability to make freedom of choice. We all have free will, and most people don't realize that there is a majority, there's a massive amount of free will within divine will. And that brings me back to the bowling alley analysis that I was utilizing earlier. I don't think that's a proper word. However, utilizing that analogy, I think, is a better way of stating it. When you look at a bowling alley, you see those 10 pyramid triangulations in the center trying to aim towards the pins, right? And then you have the 2 gutter balls. Well, if the 2 gutter balls are super and lower ego, those 10 triangles, that's divine will. It's not one big triangle. There are 10, there are many. You have so many creative choices within divine will. You're not limited. You have free will within divine will. However, the ego would tell you that you don't. The ego would tell you that divine will is boring. Divine will is massive. It's so huge that people are afraid of it, that they choose vibrations of containment to keep them smaller, because divine will is so big that it frightens you. Free will is tiny. It's fucking tiny. And it limits you and it keeps you in loops. And it keeps you in egoic games with other beings versus the freedom, ultimate freedom and divine will and creation. Choose divine will. Learn to identify that which is your gutter balls. Learn to identify when you're too needy or thinking you're the badass shit that you're not. Not one of us is getting out of this unscathed. Humble yourself. Be vulnerable. Trust me, I know it's not easy. I can't cancel that. Cancel that. It is easy when you surrender to it. However, I know the simplicity of just defending yourself again, because it's what we know so well. Thank you for taking the time to listen today. I hope I offered words of information or wisdom or further consciousness for your journey. And I'm reminded by listening to a recent podcast, and I say to you, as they had said during their podcast, take what resonates and throw away the rest. It's not about me being right. It's about you knowing your truth and what is right for you. What's right for you? Blessings. Thank you.